Hey, what's up everybody? So welcome back to another tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to explain you about the wish list, and it's something that has been very often on the YouTube channel, and many people if they have created that content and that is not that is not much understandable, or they're missing some parts. So I believe that is the best video for learning about the wish list, all the concept and everything that I've done here is you can feel free to use that. I've implemented with the help of AJAX and jQuery. There is no page refreshing, so let's gonna start with that. So if I just want to refresh this, and if I try to click on it, and you see there's no page refreshing and the product removed successfully from the wish list, and if I try to click on here and you see the green and it shows that product added successfully to the wish list. So I can add as much as I want, and you see here the 4 products are added successfully. And if I go to the database, that you could see, if I go to my wish list table, and that's, you see here the 4th and against the user ID, if I have another user ID, so this should be inserted with some other with the other ID, and the products that I added is 1 2 3 4. And if I just try to uncheck this one, the first product, and this is the product ID 1, and if I see here, you see now the product ID 1 is removed successfully. So if I just try to log out, and if I try to log in with the some other user, so let me go to the AV. I have to register that with some other user, and let me add here something that is not exist in my email. So it should be john@gmail.com, and 1 2 3 4 5 6. Let me change that first name, makes more sense, John Doe. If I try to register that, and now if I go to the login screen and log in with the john@gmail.com, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 logged in, and if I try to add something that is insert to the product added successfully to the wish list, and this should be probably the user ID too, because if I go to my users table, and you see the second user with having a user ID 2, and now if I go back to the wish list table, and you see here that against the user ID 2, now I have the product ID 1 as a favorite. So you see here how elegant it's that against the some specific user ID we can add to the favorite. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys will love and learn a lot of concepts from here. So let's jump in and get started in the coding section. Alright guys, so welcome back here. So let's get started by the coding section. So here I'm going to install the Laravel 8, and I have explained this video many times on my YouTube channel where I explain how to install Laravel 8, all the dependencies were required. So make sure you have Composer installed, so Composer-V, and it installed. And the next thing that I'm going to do is to install the Laravel project. So here I want to do is to clone the project for the authentication. I created that video. I want to give that link in the description, so I don't want to waste your time, because in the wish list tutorial it's just like that a user which is authenticated against his ID, the product is going to add as a wish list. So that's why I don't want to spend so much time. I have a video, complete video using AJAX and jQuery, the very nice step-by-step procedure explained, one of the best video for the authentication to learn all from the scratch on my YouTube channel, and even the entire YouTube, the well explanatory video of my own, right? So I'm going to clone that. I want to give that link in the description. So this is basically the complete authentication process, save a lot of time. So I'm going to clone that first, right? So git clone, and let me paste that link here. And why I'm doing it, because many of the viewers might understand, so they could understand how to clone the project and install the dependencies that were required. So I'm going to do the same trick. So let me grab this right over here and change that name to let me close that too, and I'm going to give that name to be wish list. All right, so that's fine. Let me right click on it, and I'm going to open up with the VS Code. So we can we are using here VS Code as our code editor, and let me install the dependencies that were required. So I'm going to open up my terminal, and let's gonna do here is let me make this little better so you guys could see. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to composer install, right? And that's the same trick that you need to do. You can either use composer update or you can use composer install. For the first time, I prefer that if you try to run PHP artisan serve, you will get an error, so you need to install according to the instruction, but most basic is composer install. So once it's installed, then we have to run here another command, which is basically PHP artisan key generate, which is basically inside our .env.example. That's the configuration to connect with our database. So I'm going to copy that same, and I'm going to Control C with that, and let's create a file inside our root directory with the name of .env, and that is very essential to connect our database with the environment that we set up for the Laravel. All right, so it says that running file create participants. Either I have a create the .env, and let me refresh this, or I should need to create. Let me create that again. I don't know what happened. Yeah, it's created. Okay, so .env, right inside the .env, I'm going to paste the same thing and what is inside the .env.example, and let me change that DB database to wish list. So I'm going to copy that up and let me create. I'm already inside my database. So all you need to do is to make sure your XAMPP server open, and you need to type your localhost /phpMyAdmin, and let me create the database with the name of wishlist, and you can name whatever you want. But wishlist is something that it makes sense, right? So I already did. We have created the database, and this is the app_key that is required to generate. So I'm going to open up another terminal. So because my PowerShell is not configured well, so I'm going to open up with the git bash, or you can use the git bash terminal just like I opened previously where I clone my project. You can also do that. So let me here type PHP artisan key generate. So as long as I type here, it says something that it's failed to open stream. Yeah, it's just because we are in the installation phase yet. So it's going to install the dependencies. So once this install, we have to use few more things. However, it's working on my PowerShell, still fine. You can use that. Yeah, so it's generating the optimized autoload files. All the files are autoload. And now I'm gonna easily type here PHP artisan key generate. All right, so this the key is generated successfully. The next thing that I'm gonna do here is to PHP artisan migrate, but yeah, we need to do a few changes in our database. I'm gonna do that later on. So if I try to run PHP artisan serve, or even I have to migrate just because so I could show you the UI that I have created for my authentication. So let me do PHP artisan migrate. So all the tables are migrated successfully. So let me run PHP artisan serve. So it's open up on the port 127. So let me open up that right over here. So press enter, and there we go. So it's a very nice looking login process and a nice looking registration process as well. So I created all of those. So we have to do a slight changes here. So let me create the very basic registration. So let me add here AB Nation. Yeah, I want to add up here my last name, and let me add up here avnation@gmail.com, and our password to be anything 12345 6. So as long as I registered that, the user registered successfully, all done with the AJAX. So you see there is no page refreshing here. Now if I go to my route for the login, you can either redirect that if you want, but I'm happy with that. So the registration that I just used here, avnation@gmail.com, the password should be 12345 6, and as long as I log in, a very basic boilerplate with a name and the dashboard with a bell icon, which we can change that to wishlist later on, and that's the logout process. So as long as I click on the logout and try to redirect, to the dashboard, I won't be allowed because we have used middleware. So this is basically the gist of it. Now we have to convert that project into something as a wish list. So it's something which you have seen very often on the YouTube. Not There's no any well explanatory video, very few videos, and they are not much accurate according to the instructions that are required for the wish list. So let's go into it, and I'm gonna close that so you could see all the screen. Yeah, I need to open up the terminal just because I need to run some few commands as well. So let me go here, and I'm gonna close the unnecessary. Um, yeah, it's the server that is running right here, and I need to go into, let me close that too. So inside my git bash terminal, I'm gonna clear this out, and let's create some models for the few changes that I need here. So PHP artisan make model, I'm gonna create here a model with the name of product dash m. So this is basically where we have to show all the products that we need that we need to add for the wish list, or we can remove for the wish list. So these are all the product listing inside the product table. And same trick for here, I'm going to create another model with the name of wishlist dash m. All right, so once these are created, so I'm going to go inside my database migration. So you see here inside the products, we have a function with the name of, so we have created as up method, we have schema with the create. So let me create here the attributes that we need. So the first attribute that we need here is a title. So basically make sure it should be the of type string. And let me add here another one. So this should be description. All right, so that's all we need for here. So the next thing that we need here inside the wish list, we need to create here two more attributes. So this, make sure this should be integer, and the first thing that we need here is the user underscore ID, and as well as we need here the product underscore ID. So whenever the user add the product as a wish list, it should be add against that user ID. So that's why we need these two major columns, and this is basically the foreign key that should be connected directly with the product's ID, right? So that's all we need for the migration. So I need to do here one more trick is PHP artisan migrate roll back all the data, and let me migrate the PHP artisan migrate so we can add our new two columns for it. So now let's go inside our database and wish list, and there we are. So we have the products table, we have the users table, we have the wish list table. So let me go inside our users table, and that should be empty because we have used rollback here. We have to again register another user. So this should be the wish list table, and that should be the last is for the products. That's where we need to insert our data. So I'm going to add here a data, very basic data for it. So let me add the title. Let's give it the name of sports, and I need to add some description. So I'm gonna grab it from my actually I need to go to resources to generate some lorem data. So let me go to the dashboard and add here paragraph tag, not the PHP actually. And inside here, let me add here lorem teddy. So just want to cut this out. I don't need that. So cut this out and let me paste inside the description, right? And that's all we need. So same here, down over here, I need to create for the description, and let's give it the name of, the first one should be sports. Let me give it the name of fruits. All right, so let click on the go, and that's all we need. So it's now added, inserted. So right over here, so basically this is the dashboard. That's where I want to show all the products. So I'm gonna go inside my let me go inside the controller. So the controller that we have here, app HTTP controllers, and it should be inside the user controller because we need to show all the products, and it's returned to the dashboard. So right over inside the dashboard method, I'm going to create here a variable with the name of $products equal to product all. So this is the eloquent query. So basically it's select all from the product. So if you have used some query, it should be similar to select all from products. So this all pertains to that, right? So this is the eloquent model that's actually help us to extract all the data inside the products table. And let me define that model here. So actually, if we don't need that message, I don't know why I have still not removed this. So just remove this all, and let me just remove this pusher as well. So I will do here is these three models. I want to remove it from my this repository, so you guys could have the clean project for it. So just grab this one, and right after here, let me use here the product, and that's all you need. So inside my resource dashboard, because we need to pass the data, so I need to use here something which is known as compact. So let's use that here. So it should be comma compact, it should be products comma dollar products. All right, so that's fine for here. Now inside the dashboard, I'm gonna create a very basic UI, and let me create a CSS file as well. So it should be inside my let me collapse files. So I need to go inside my public, and here I'm gonna create here a file. You can either give it the name of assets if you want, but I'm happy with that because I don't need to do a lot of stuff here inside the public. So I'm happy with the style.css. So a few changes that I want. If I want my body of background color, let me give the background. Oops, it should be background dash color, and let me give here the color code to be 46. 46 or something like that. I just need to go to my repository actually, because I have saved that. So let me grab it from my repository to save some time. So public, even I created a folder with the name of assets in my repository if you want this. So this is actually private for now, just for the sake, because it's not completed yet. So that's why I have make this private. But once it's complete, I will give this as a public, right? So you guys could easily copy that. I want to save some time, so that's why. So basically, this should be the background color that I want for my main dashboard screen. This should be the width and the margins, box shadows, and the background color of the card that we will create. And this is the content section where we have the paragraph. So the font family, the padding, very basic CSS. And that should be for the description. I believe that we have, I have to check if we need this class. And next we have the heart. This is basically for the favorites, color to be tomato. And we have created for the button dash container for our wish list icon. We need to give it some space between. We use some flags, and that's the notification div that you see most often. You see here that the message that once we create, I want to show you that once we create something, it's just like a toaster or the notification message. So we create here a custom notification div as well. So this is a very basic CSS that we just created. All right, now inside the dashboard, we just have to type a few things. First, we make things static. So let me create here a container and give it a margin top of 4. And inside here, I'm going to create a row inside it. And let me create here a card. And inside card, we have a content class. So inside content, let me give here a h4 tag and give it the class name if I want. I think I haven't give any class for the name. Yeah, so we don't need that. Just make things basic. So let write here games for now, because this is all static for now. So h4 tag, and right after the h4 we have a class for the description. Yeah, we have provided, so this is fine. So this should be description. Inside the description we have a paragraph tag, so let's give it the lorem 40, okay, for now. So right after this div we have a button dash container. So we already created that class for it. So right after here we have like dash button. and inside like dash button we have the anchor tag, and let's just give it the hash for now, and we need to give it the icon class. So over here I have to use something which is known as the font awesome class. So let me grab this as well. So I class equal to fa dash heart, and just to make some zoom for this class we have to use fa-3x, and basically it's not going to show us for now. So let's go inside our dashboard. I need to register first, so let me register that, and abnation @gmail.com. The password should be 123456. So I click register. This is the notification that we just created, and now let me log in inside the email. So abnation, and let me add the password, which should be 123456. Logged in successfully. So this looks for now something like this. So I need to change that icon to something, but I believe that if I go to if that icon is showing, that means that we have linked it with we already have this inside my style layout. So layouts master.blade.php, and the icon is showing just because we already have here the font awesome css, right? So that's awesome. So it's also not required over here, so I'm gonna close this notification div because I already provided that inside my style.css, and now I have to link my css. So let's add here, and let's grab here assets, and let's provide here style.css. All right, so let's go back and refresh this. So it looks something like it. So it looks very elegant UI, right? So now this is the static data. We have two products inside our database. So let me go inside the products. For now, we just created two. You can create as much you want. You can either use here something which is known as the factories seeder. You can apply here seeders if you want. So it all depends on you. So let me loop this data as we have created inside the controller of user controller. We loop the data. So let me go inside my products, and right over the row, let's use here for each. So products as key, and right over here the name should be the title. So let me use a $key dash title, and let me paste that, and for the description I'm going to use here description. Alright, so let's have a look and see. And if I try to refresh this, so it says unexpected end of file. Yeah, just because I haven't used end for each right over here. So end for each. Alright, so let me refresh this. So there we go. So we have only two datas, and we have looped the data. So it's the one thing that I'm going to explain in this section is that if I try to, this is the FAS FA-hard, which means that is the card is filled, and at the same time we have another class which is basically, now you see the cards are not filled, the color is not filled inside the heart. So this is the FAR-hard. The concept is that once I clicked on it, it will toggle to the filled, and it will revert back to the unfilled heart. So this is the concept. So that I'm going to explain in the next section. So that's it for this section. So I will be right back after a few minutes. Alright guys, so welcome back here. So let's get started to the most important phase of this section. So you see here that we have created we inserted the data inside the database, then we fetch the data and show to our main screen, to the dashboard. Now you see here the few changes that we need here is that we have to link that that this favorite icon should work. Once I click on it, it should toggle and it will revert to the filled heart, and once I clicked once in, it will change back to the unfilled heart, right? And also the most important concept of this wish list that once user make this favorite, it should be inserted inside the database, and as long as I clicked again, it means that we toggle, then it will remove from the database. So that's what we are going to do in this video. So let's get started here, right? So first thing that make sure you know is to go inside your resources views, and I already set up everything that we have done in my authentication phase. I highly suggest that to watch that video if you want to continue with that, because you can learn a lot of stuff with that. You can create in your own project. Feel free to use that. So if I go to my master.blade.php, and that's the main file, so I'm going to also change that authentication panel to be wishlist. So let's change that to wish list, as well as you see here all the rest of all things are good. And we also need that validate, because we are going to do with the validation process that is required. That's the bootstrap, that's what we need. We don't need that pusher, because I'm not going to do this. This process is actually, I also have planned to make a video on the pusher, which can help up to learn about the real-time notification. I already have created that content, and that's why most of the things are right there. So I'm going to remove it on my repository that where I clone. All right, so that's all you need here. Okay, so make sure you have jQuery. You should not remove that, and that is required because we are going to implement AJAX. So let's go inside the dashboard here, and inside dashboard.blade.php, I'm going to create here a script, because we have defined that the stack JavaScript. So with the help of stack, we are able to extend all the scripts on top. So here for the stack, we have to use something which is known as push, and same for the push, we have something which is end push. All right. So here, right inside my anchor tag, that's basically where we have the heart inside. So I'm going to create here a class with the name of update, because we are going to update the wish list. So update underscore wish underscore list, or you can either give the wish list. All right, that makes more sense. So update underscore wish list, and I'm gonna go inside here and let me create here dollar document. Actually, I need to have the script tags as well for my jQuery. So inside here, let me grab that dollar document dot ready function, and inside over here, I'm gonna do a few more things, because we need to update, we have to work with the jQuery. So dollar, because we are using here a class with the, so we have to use here dot, just like here you see here we have the class. So for the class we have to use dot, and I'm gonna use here the click function. So dot click, and let me create here a function, and inside the function let me create here alert, and let's give it the name of click. Right, so once I click on it, it should pop the message. So let me refresh this here, and it says something that the star push is, where it's at actually, star it says undefined property inside dashboard.blade.php. So where it actually is, so dollar document dot ready function, and we have inside the scripts that we want. Actually, I need to define here the name, which I forget. That should be the name that we have defined here inside here. So it should be JavaScript. So let me paste that here, and now if I try to refresh this, so this error should be hide. Now I also need to open up my console. So let me right click on here and inspect this. So as long as I click on this hard icon, you see now it's click, and if I click right here, nothing works. So it should be, the action should be implemented right inside the hard, right? Okay, so that makes sense. And also we need here the ID for the authenticated user. So we are logged in actually. Now if I try to get the ID of the authenticated user, so var my underscore ID equal to, so let me grab the authenticated user ID. So it should be auth underscore ID, and I just forget to give that name to be my underscore ID. And if I try to console the log, and why it's not working actually, console.log, and if I try to give here my underscore ID, and let me go back and refresh this. So let me alert this right inside here, my underscore ID, and if I try to refresh this and click on this hard click, and my ID, my underscore ID is not defined. All right, so it says that my ID is not defined. So actually it should be inside the script tags. Yeah, that's why it's not console.log. So it should be inside that, right? So it's a mistake that I done. Now now you can either use console.log or you can use alert and my underscore ID. And if I try to refresh this, so there we go. So you see the ID one, and if I try to click on this same product, because we are logged in with the same user, so it should show the my underscore ID to be one, right? So that's how we can grab the ID for the authenticated user. So I'm going to remove this all. And next thing that we need to do, once I try to submit the data, so there is something which is known as the CSRF token mismatch error that we need to prevent. And if I go to my master.blade.php, and that's the token that is generated, and if I go to my the project that we just have, and if I go to the header tag, the content you see here is the token ID that is generated, and it should match with the request that we generate from the AJAX. So for this we have to define here the AJAX setup. So AJAX setup is something that I already generated. It's very simple. So whenever you have a AJAX request, most normally commonly it generate the header. So I'm gonna go to my pages. So a lot of the stuff that I already done. So let me go to the register.blade.php, and I'm gonna grab here the AJAX setup. Actually, it's much better defined, I think, inside my login, right? So let me grab this AJAX setup, and I'm gonna put that inside my I'm going dashboard.blade.php. So right after my click function, and I'm gonna define my AJAX setup, and right after the AJAX setup, I also need the product ID. So as long as I click on this product ID, I'm gonna fetch the ID from this anchor tag. And how I'm gonna grab this, so all I need here, let me give that name to be data dash product ID equal to, and this ID should be generated that we have just defined inside the dollar key dash ID. Just like we are fetching the title and the description, we are also able to get the ID of each individual product. So we define that right here. So right after the AJAX setup, I'm gonna define my ID. So right after here, so var product underscore ID equal to, so how I'm gonna grab this, very simple, dollar this dot data and whatever I have named here, right over here. So it should be that one. This not the data, because that data is already defined here. So dollar this dot data, and right inside here we have product ID. All right, so that makes sense. So let me alert this one, so we could see that we're either getting the product ID or not. So just close that one, and I'm gonna refresh this. So if I try to click on here, that should be the product ID 1, and if I click on here, that should be the product ID 2. So very nice. So let's go back inside the code, and I'm gonna remove this alert from here. So now let's create here the AJAX request. So $.ajax, and inside the AJAX request we have the type of post, and we have URL. So let's give it the name of update underscore wish list. And I also need to define the data inside here. So it should be product ID, and it should be equal to product ID. Same for the user ID. So user underscore ID equal to that user ID that we passed right here. So basically this coming from the product ID, and this user ID is coming from the so let me change that name to be not my ID, give it the name of user underscore ID, makes more sense. So user underscore ID, and all that we need inside the data. Now we have a success function. So once it's successfully worked, we have a function, success function. So let's pass here the response. Now if that response is successful, so we are actually getting, so let me alert that response, and we can use here log. So response. All right, so let me create that request of update dash wishlist. So we have to create here a route. So for this, let me go inside my routes, web.php, and right inside my save underscore register, I'm gonna create here a wishlist route. So route, and it should be a post request, and let me give it the route that we just passed here. So update underscore wishlist. So let me pass that, and we have to create here a controller that we haven't created yet. So let's go to the terminal, and I have to create here a controller with the name of PHP artisan make controller, and let's give it the name of product controller. All right, so that's fine. So let's define that controller right inside here. So it should be app slash, I'm gonna grab it from top so we can just change the name of the controller, which in my case should be product controller. All right, so right after the class, put here a comma and give it the name of the, yeah, this should be fine. And there's no need for the brackets. And comma, and let's define here the method name, which should be, let's give it the name of update wishlist. All right, so that's fine, and let me create this method inside the controller. So let's go inside the app http controllers product controller and define that method public function. And I also need here the model, so app slash model slash product. So we also need here a wishlist model that we might need here. So let's give it the name of wishlist, and that's all. All right, so let's pass here the request that we just $request, and right inside the product controller, we have to test few things here. If that request is AJAX, so if $request is AJAX, so if that request is AJAX, so $data equal to request all. Just to get all the requests, we have a method with the name of $request all, and in order to check this, so print underscore R to get the data. So in order to check this one, I'm gonna go inside my, let me refresh this, and it's showing some kind of an error right here. Yeah, it should be, if I go to my dashboard update.php, I don't know why I just have this. All right, so now let me go back and refresh here, and if I go to my console and click right up here, you see here we have a product ID, we have the user ID, and same case if I click right here, so now we have a product ID 2 and the user ID is 1. So that's very fine. So we have done the most complex part. Now the thing that we need here inside the product controller, so we test all that the data is coming successfully fine. Now we have to see here that if that product ID counter is like, if I clicked on this icon, on this unfilled wish list icon, so definitely once I click on this, it should insert this ports inside my database against this user ID. Now if I try to click again, it should remove from my database because it's toggled and it's removed from the wish list. Now for that, if that count is greater than 0, that means that we have something inside the database against this specific product ID and also against the specific user. Same like this for the other products. If that is greater than 0, that means we have something inside the database, so it should be filled. Otherwise, it should be unfilled. So for that, we have to create here a method that we haven't defined yet. So let's go inside the models, and I need to define that inside my wishlist.php. We have to create here a method. That's where we have to define that if that product is more than 1 or not. So let me create a public function. So this should be static function because we have defined here a model function. So public static function, and give it the name of count wish list. And let me pass here the product ID here. So because as I explained that according to if that product ID is greater than 0, that means that that product is inserted inside the database. So we have to define here a count for the wish list. So let's create a variable. So define here wish list where, and we have to check if that user ID, let me define a user underscore ID, and that should be equal to auth user ID. And because we are passing here multiple parameters, so I need to wrap this with the multiple parameter with an array. So let me define here the product underscore ID, and that should be passed from the parameter that we passed on top. So let me define here dollar product underscore ID, and we need to count this. So basically, I need to count that wish list. So this will help us to check if that user ID and the product, if that user ID and the product ID counter is greater than 0, that means that there should be some data. So we need to toggle that. We need to remove this. And on the other case, if that data is equal to 0, then we have to insert the data inside the database. So let me go inside the product controller and define that static method. So whenever we have a static method, we need to define that like the way that I'm going to do now. So $count wish list equal to the wish list. So wish list colon, and the name of the method that we just defined right up here. So just close that search. And we need to pass here the dollar product underscore ID. So it should be dollar data because the request that is coming from on top, that the request. So we have the product ID. So we need to get this product underscore ID. So this product underscore ID should be passed to this this method, and it will check. Now this count wishlist is defined. Next we have to define the model, which is wishlist equal to new wishlist. And this will check that if that $count wish list that we just defined, if that is equal to 0, and we have to see, we have to check this out and insert the data. So $wish list dash product underscore ID equal to $data, and we have to pass the request that is coming from the AJAX. So $product underscore ID, and same case for the user ID. This should be user underscore ID, and we have to pass here user underscore ID, right? So that's it. And we have to save with the help of eloquent save method. So let me define that too. And we have to return response, and let me define a JSON, and right inside the JSON we have to implement two things here. We have to apply here the action that should be add. So this actually help us to understand better. So, and the message should be that product added successfully to wish list. Alright, so that should be for the save case. And on the other hand, if that data is greater than 0, so we have to apply here the else condition. We have to see if that wish list where, again we have to apply here multiple parameters. So user underscore ID, that should be equal to auth user ID. And next we have here the product underscore ID. So we have to see this product ID. We need to remove only if that data is greater than 0. So that's what I'm going to do. So product underscore ID, and we need to simply define here the delete method. All is up. So I need to grab this response message right after underneath that, and here, so product removed successfully from wishlist. That's the message that we need to generate. So basically, if that wishlist is greater than 0, that means that we have to save the data against the specific user and against the specific product ID. And on the other case, if that IDs already exist inside the database, so we need to check if that user and the product ID exist, then we need to delete it, just like a toggle. And we have defined that count right inside the public static function count wishlist. This will help us to check if that user ID and the product ID counter is equal to 0. You can either dump and die and check that if that counter. So I actually need to check right inside my dashboard.blade.php. That's where we have console. So I just need to remove that, and according to the response that we get, so if that response dot action is equal to add, so what I'm going to do is that simply the message that I have defined inside my other I need to go to my register.blade.php, and that's basically the notification div that you see I have defined. So I need to grab this one, and I just want to have a trick here. So basically this all help us to fade in jQuery method. So the background color should be green if that is successful, and I need that message that is coming from the message that I passed from the controller. You see here how I can access this. So this is the controller, and that's the message, and I need to grab this message object with the help of response.message, and whatever the message I display here, I type here, it should be displayed inside the notification div. So that's for the if that response action is add, and on the other hand, if that response dot action is equal to remove, so I need to define the same thing, just only the background color should be red. So I need to grab this one, and let me change that to be red color. So on this case it should be removed. So let me go to the refresh me, and let me test this out. If I just try to click right up here, so it's showing us the error. It says that the app HTTP controller auth is not defined. Let me define here. It should be it's showing us the product controller, right? So let me go to the product controller and define here use auth. All right, and let me refresh this and check this out. Yeah, now you see that the product is removed successful. Oh, actually, it should be in red color, however. Product added successfully and product removed successfully. But yeah, you cannot see right now this should be filled because we haven't defined any implementation for this. So let me go to the table, wishlist table. Yeah, then nothing is there. So if I try to click right up here, so the product added successfully to the wish list. So let me go to the wish list. So you see here the user ID and the product ID is added successfully. If I try to add another one, so the product added successfully to the wish list, and another data is inserted. The user ID is 1, but the product ID is now 2. And if I try to delete that data again, and if I try to check this out, and you see now the product ID 2 is deleted. Now I want this to be in the red color. However, I define that so the background color green for the success, and if that response action, it should be removed. Yeah, that's why it's not working. So if that action is removed, now the product removed successfully. So let me check this out. If I go back and refresh this and try to click up here, now the product removed successfully, and now the product added successfully. So we are all good with that. Now we need to left with the last part, which is actually we need to check that the heart should be filled with the red color. If that is added is successfully, that is basically the better user experience, that a user could easily understand that yes, I have this favorite, I have selected this favorite, but right now, yes, the data is inserted and removed successfully, but the user cannot understand that how it's going to work. So I'm going to take a very short break, so I will be right back. All right, guys. So up to this point, you see that we have covered almost all the major functionality. That if I just try to click on this fill star, this should be actually the product removed successfully. If I toggle that, so the product added successfully, we are showing notification on the real time without page refreshing. So this is absolutely amazing. Now we are left with this the fill star, which is basically the fill star here means that we have to implement the class of font awesome, which should be fa-hard, which is basically the fill hard. And on the other case, if that is removed, it should be far. So that's what we are going to implement right up here. So I need to go to my resources, views, and inside the dashboard.blade.php, and if that action is added successfully, so we need to change that to be to the fill star. So let me do here dollar, and what I'm going to do here is that whatever we passed inside the anchor ID, that user ID, so let me define here anchor data dash whatever we have here. Let me grab this data dash product ID. So I'm gonna grab this one. So dollar a data dash product ID, and it should be equal to that product ID that we passed. So plus and product underscore ID. So we actually concatenate that, and right after that we have to define dollar HTML tag, and right inside that HTML tag we have to define that filled hard. So I'm going to grab this complete I class. So I'm going to paste it right up here, and as well just to remove some spaces, so that's fine. So this should be FAS, not the FAR, because the FAR class is for the unfilled, which is basically for the remove. And same case right up here, I'm going to paste this up, and that product ID, whenever a user clicked on here, that anchor ID, so this should be FAR, which is for the remove. Now let me check this and see if that works successfully, but we still have one problem I'm going to show you. So if I try to click on here, it says that product removed successfully, and if I click on here, you see that product added successfully to the wish list. Same case for here, looks very fine. But if I click one of it to be unfilled, and if I try to refresh back, and you see now both are unfilled. However, in the back end, the things are working fine. It's only work on the real time when a user click on it, but when I try to refresh this, it will actually not work, because we have to implement another one more condition. Yes, the HTML is that whenever I click on real time, it's showing me the fill, but when I refresh back, it reverts. So for this problem, we have to do here is, let me go inside the like dash button div and define here a condition for the PHP, and I'm going to explain what I'm going to do here. So the end PHP, so this is basically where we can add the PHP inside the Laravel blade. So I'm going to create here a variable with the name of dollar count wish list, that should be equal to 0 for now, and right after that I'm going to apply here a condition of another condition, that if that user is authenticated, that if that is auth is checked, and let me end if, and if that user is authenticated, and it's so we have to write a condition here $p, we have to end the PHP. So right inside here, I have defined here variable that we just defined on top, dollar count wish list equal to, let me define that model, because we have to use that the method that we apply where we have used the count wish list inside the model. So app slash models slash wish list, and to access the model, The name of the model should be count wish list, and that's where we have to pass the ID that is coming from the loop. So dollar key ID. So it will check that if that user is authenticated, and it must have the counter of this specific ID. Now we have to do is, if that right after the I tag, if that count wish list, very simple basic condition, if that count wish list is greater than 0, that means it's inserted. So we have to apply here a class of FAS, not the FAR, because FAR is for the remove. And right after that, for the else case, we have to just simply grab this one, and we have to apply here the class which is for the unfilled, which should be FAR, FA dash hard. Alright, so it's good, but we have to use here and if. So it should be and if. Alright, so let me check if it works fine for us. So if I try to refresh it, and now you see it's showing us the fill. Now if I try to refresh back again, and yeah, let me use that filled hard, and if I try, it still remains the same. And if I use unfilled hard, and there we go. So you see how elegant the way that we have worked with the wish list. Now in the coming video, this is all the spectacular video. I highly suggest, guys, if you guys can give me a favor of just subscribing and sharing a like. That's what you guys could do for me for now, and I will try to create best videos, the new videos which are hardly find for the YouTube, the project related videos, just like I just created, the way that is exceptionally awesome. And in the next coming video, you see here, yes, we are working with the wish list, but I want this counter to be work on the real time. Whenever I click on this one against this specific user ID, it show me on the real time, it show me 1. And if I click right up here, it should show me 2. So this is what I'm gonna do in the next video. So I hope you guys will love and like, and please don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and I want to see you for the next time.